Republican Party to me is the party of freedom, it's the party of movement, it's the party of inclusion, it's the Big Ten. All are welcome. The core principle is freedom. Limited government, so limited interference of government in your personal daily affairs and the affairs of your business and what you do. It's there for its important functions, which is to serve and protect people. It's there to ensure that there's fairness in society. Government has a very important role, but it should not be there to make every single decision for you. And it should not be there to tell. My view is, when I was a little kid, I hated being told what to do. I was able to figure out a lot of things on my own. I had my own way about going about things, and I think that type of principle where, freedom is paramount, not being told, not being rigid, not being structured, having, no barriers to your progress, to the ability to provide for your family, to pursue whatever type of career path that you want to pursue. You want everything to be open. And that to me is what it means to me. And that's my message to everyone who's interested in politics in any way. A lot gets talked about in different places, and a lot of sources of information have their own agendas and their own leanings, but the key is to find the truth, and to find the truth is you have to hear from everything and then expose yourself to all different types of sources of information, and just having discussions with your friends and neighbors and everybody to see what's really going on. So, that's what it means to me, and I think that's a wonderful message.
How do you plan to local working families to unite in local advice? How is that simultaneously dependent on
Here's what I want to do. Okay. Border security is very important. All right. That being said, as an attorney that handles immigration matters myself, I help people come here and become, get permanent residency, become a U.S. citizen, which is, by the way, the ceremony of becoming a U.S. citizen is amazing. It's an experience that's unlike anything else. So what I do is I know that there's a lot of costs involved, there's a lot of fees involved. I mean, there's 2 stages of applications for a green card, and then once it's accepted, you have to pay more money in order to move on to the next step of the process. So I want to look at reducing some of those fees that it costs to apply for citizenship. We also have to look at making it easier for people to come here, less Byzantine, less draconian. Because, American citizenship is something that people all around the world, since the country's existed, have aspired to. We're the land of opportunity. We do so many amazing things in this country. We just can't do it anywhere else. So I want to make it easier for people that want to share that dream, that want to build it, to come here. And as far as helping with working families, one of the main things that I want to do is, this has never been done before, I want to create a new type of bank account known as the rainy day account. That's the real use for it. And what this is everybody that has a job and is trying to raise children, and friends, family members, people you may know, experience unexpected hardships in their life of any kind. A tree can fall on your house, your transmission can die in your car. So many, we call them thunderbolts. Something that happens is unexpected and creates a hardship. Now, you know what your wages are, you know what your income is, and hopefully people are able to meet their basic expenses, rent, mortgage, whatever it is from what they earn. But if something really unexpected comes up in their lives, a lot of folks don't have the money to be able to absorb that type of cost. A study was recently done, a couple studies. One was the UNICEF Alice, which is about income-limited families, came out in New Jersey, especially in the district that I'm going to represent. There's a very high percentage of families that can't scrape together $400, even $400, in the event an emergency comes up. And when I ask people why they're unable to save money, where people have been able to do in the past, they tell me they can't afford to, and I totally understand it. It's probably 3 kids and a dog with 2 kids. We're not doing enough to encourage people to save money. I want to make it so that people can't afford not to save their own money. My plan is this. You'll be able to take a certain amount of money every year from your income, federal income tax-free. You're not going to be taxed on it. Your employer will be able to deposit it directly into this type of account, almost as if it was an IRA or retirement type account, and you would be able to use it if you have any type of an unexpected expense that comes up that exceeds a certain portion of your gross income, so that you'll have a safety net, and that you'll have something that you can draw on. It's never been done before. It's never been, to my knowledge, you don't hear people talking about stuff like this. My whole focus is just trying to help people solve problems that come up in their lives, which, so many people talk about other things and, adversarial, antagonistic politics. My focus is what's going on in your life, what struggles you're having, how can I help you? That's one way that I see that, I think it's going to be a tremendous amount of help to people to have money that they can save tax-free, that there is no incentive not to put it in, and have it grow and have it available if anything happens, not just for medical things, but for any type of unexpected expense or impact to your life. You'll have something, and you'll have it there, and that's something. If I can make people's lives easier, if I can take away the stress that comes with something that happening in your life, that'll make me happy. Correct.
But I think that as the people living in the can you support this action tax?
Here's the thing. Tax reform in general, if you look at what's going on, we have 4.1% GDP growth in the second quarter. We have 3.9% unemployment. We have lowest minority and unemployment since 2040. We have a lot of positive things going on in the rest of the country. I am very concerned about the loss of the state and local tax deduction. And this proposal that I have, I think, is one way to sort of ameliorate the effects of it, and give people, particularly in the middle class, because I don't expect to open this rainy day proposal up to people in the two highest federal tax brackets. So I want people to have money that they can save tax-free to use when they need it. If you lose your job, obviously, you've got to use all of it. I am concerned about it, but I think that with the SALT deductions in particular, the people that it affect the most in New Jersey are the wealthiest, because they pay the highest amount of property taxes on their homes. So they're going to be the ones that will be impacted with the loss of the deduction. A study was done, about 59 to 60% of people in New Jersey will hopefully receive a tax benefit from tax reform, but I'm always concerned about government taking people's money when it's not being put to good use, and a lot of that unfortunately goes on at the state level in New Jersey. So this is one way that I came up with to try to help people that may be in the middle range that may be impacted by the loss of the SALT deductions, and I'm going to be working on pretty much anything that I can do to help people to be impacted. Tax reform is working. There's a lot of good things that are happening right now. There's more jobs that people don't deal with. A lot of great things going on, but we have to make sure that the negative effects, if there are any, are mitigated to the point where they're gone. If we can do that, and that's what we're working on. Yeah.
So your rainy day account is to help people save money
Yes.
for unexpected hardship.
Right.
How about the people from the lower class who can't afford to take any money out of their income and they have to use all of it within, if they're living on a paycheck to paycheck?
That's what this is aimed at. I mean, they still pay federal income taxes too. And it will be an opportunity for them to avoid having to pay federal income tax to put that money away. And if their income is on the lower end, they will be able to access that money at a much lower threshold than somebody whose income is higher. Because the proposal that I came up with is the unexpected, or the expense has to be greater than 10% of your weekly gross income in order to be able to use that without a tax penalty. And I want to keep it on the honor system, really, unless you wouldn't have to put anything special on your tax return. But if you get audited, in the event you get audited, you have to explain what the money was used for. But the key is I want to make it as unrestricted as possible. And people that are struggling are the ones that are going to be working for the most. Because I know how it is, and most people that are career politicians don't understand it because they've been making so much money for so long that any personal connection that they can have to being a struggling family in the state of New Jersey is long gone, and it's not guiding their principles, it's not guiding what they do when they're there. So my heart and my eyes and my ears are going to be open open to do anything that I can to help people that are struggling, because so many people can't even afford to live in the state. Yeah.
So, what do you have to say about the minimum wage? Would this plan be a way of raising the minimum wage, or would you?
It certainly helps people. As far as raising the minimum wage goes, that's a conversation that we can certainly have. In terms of packaging that as part of something that works for everybody involved. Like I said, I'm open to anything. I'm not gonna, unless it's something that's really out there or something that's really proven not to work. I'm going to be open and available to discuss any type of proposal. I wouldn't, it's the idea of running for public office, especially for Congress, is you want everything that you possibly can to help every single person in the district, no matter who they are. That's what I'm doing this for. There's no other reason. And people in New Jersey, particularly here, it's so expensive to live here. You have 18,000 people picking up and leaving every month. In my own private law practice, I handle a lot of real estate closings. Not too many people are buying in New Jersey. The vast majority of people that I represent are selling their house. They're moving to North Carolina, they're moving to Florida, they're moving all the way. Some even as close as Pennsylvania, some as far as Colorado. Because the state, the environment that's created here with very difficult for young people to have the type of opportunities to be able to raise a family here. I went through the whole thing. I went through Proudland, high school, college, and law school over here, and I know how it is firsthand, having made that, having paid more, and still doing it now, running a business where I'm the only employee and the only one there. So I know what it's like, and I'm always going to be here to help. Yeah.
So are you saying that you're for making minimum wage so that more?
I'm open to it. I'm certainly open to it. I think that if it's really determined that it's just too low, I'm certainly open to it. But it can't be in a vacuum. It would have to be okay if you're going to raise the minimum wage. Businesses have a lot of pushback to that because then they say, well, we can't afford to do business anymore. Or you see what happens where people get replaced by automation. They get replaced by a kiosk screen, and maybe that's good for the companies that manufacture touch screens, but it's not so good for working families that are trying to stay in New Jersey, to stay near their parents, their grandparents, their kids, wherever, and trying to work it wherever they can to meet the challenges in their life. So I'm certainly open to it. I'm never going to say no. As long as there's, it can't be in a vacuum. There has to be other things involved to kind of make it so that it works for everybody, and then we keep a lot of positive economic things going. Yeah.
You say you are open to it, but is raising minimum wage something that you are pushing?
Is it something that I would push it if it's part of a package of things that also addresses availability of jobs. If you raise people's wages artificially, it pushes everybody artificially up on the scale from not just the lowest, but also the highest, or the middle to the highest too. And it can also have the unintended consequence of replacing human work with automation, right? So if we're going to do it, we want to make sure that people's hours don't get cut, because that can happen. Or people's benefits don't get cut, because that can happen. We want to make sure that it's done in a way that it helps everybody involved. And yeah, I would certainly push it if all of those factors are dealt with, because you don't want to do something and then have it not work out the way that we want it to.
But apparently you are not investing or planning out presumably.
I'm always looking to help people. Always looking to help people. Always looking for that. There's a way that I can do it with all those other things, absolutely. Yeah.
You said that in order to welcome immigrant families, you would reduce some of the fees for becoming Americans.
Yes, they're really high.
But in terms of reform and policy, do you have a plan to make it easier for immigrant families to obtain sanctuary in the U.S.?
Yes, absolutely. Senator Ted Cruz came up with a plan when there was all the controversy going on that I thought was really reasonable. It increases the number of immigration judges available. I think there may be a way to do it. There's a tremendous amount of cases. That's the problem, because there's a legal process involved. So there's logistics involved with that. But yes, I want to make it so that people that really have, when they're really fleeing from something dangerous, and the United States is the country that they're going to be coming to, I want to help them. That's why I'm doing this, to make things easier, not harder, because everyone's life is so hard. Yeah.
So how how do you plan to convince other fellow Republicans to agree with you?
Who came up with that proposal? Senator Ted Cruz is considered one of the most conservatives that there is. So there's people that are thinking about it. And the way to do it is that the nature of politics right now is so hyper adversarial, where people are saying things and doing things, and we're seeing things happen that hadn't happened 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. It's creating such an adversarial culture that's causing family members not to talk to one another anymore, neighbors not to talk to one another anymore, and it's sad when stuff like that happens. So the key to getting something like immigration done is to bring back the culture of, hey, wait a minute, this is not discourse. This is about getting everybody in the room. The party affiliation next to your name disappears when you're trying to help the country and trying to help people that are struggling. And I think I will certainly stand for a return to that, because it's missing. Even in the state of New Jersey, on the state level, I mean, it's becoming really nasty. And if you can take that out and step back and say, hey, wait, we're not here to put on a show. We're not here to entertain. We're not here to have the most outrageous soundbite. We're here because we got a job to do. We got people that really depend on us to make laws and to look at things that are unjust and address the right wrongs. That's not what's being done right now, and that's where I'm coming from, where I'm running and stepped up to do this to bring that back. Because if you don't have cooperation, you have people that are going to say, I'm going to vote no on this no matter what because the Republican came up with it. Or you're going to have Republicans that say, I'm going to vote no on this no matter what because a Democrat came up with it. That's not healthy for anybody. There has to be, at some point, yes, one party pushes certain, they have certain views on how things should be done. The other party has certain views on how things should be done. There's people within factions of people within both parties that have different views on how things should be done. But there needs the deliberative nature has to come back. It can't be a shouting match. It can't be an animosity contest. And I think you can step back and say, hey, wait a minute. We really, really have a job to do, and party affiliation is nothing to do with our responsibility, our constitutional responsibility. That's what we're really, that's what's got to be. There's not enough of that. That's what's hurting everybody. Yeah.
What are some actions you take regarding backlash and undocumented
Here's what I think. If you're here, you're raising a family, and you love the country, and in some places it's the only country you've ever known, because people come here when they're very, very young and they have no memory of the country they were born in. What sense does it make asking somebody like that to leave? None. So what I want to do, and again, this goes into my comment before, the adversarial nature of politics is such that people are beating each other up there in elected office rather than working together. I want a path to citizenship for people that are in that position. I think a lot of people in Washington, I think even the president wants it. We said it numerous times, but there's so much adversarialism going on in Washington where everyone wants to be the alpha dog. Everyone wants to be the guy. Everyone wants to be the one that prevails. But they're not looking. You got to step back and look at it and say, hey, wait a minute. While you're out there in Washington, D.C., squabbling over this stuff, and then you go to your nice restaurants down there and have your nice dinners and go back to your apartments and hang with lobbyists and all these people all day, you're forgetting that there's people that are suffering out there every day because all you're doing is fighting with one another and then going and living the good life. So, as somebody that understands, what it is to raise a family, what it is to run a business, yes, I will work to get protections restored to people that are here on the docket. We need a DREAM Act or something of that nature. There's a lot of other factors of immigration, like border security, that are involved too, but there's no reason why everything can't be done. And the only reason why nothing's being done is because people want to fight about it, they want to go, and they want to be the big dog, and they want to, they're pushing politics over people. And that's what 99%, if not more, of every dysfunction in American government today comes from politics over people. Yeah.
And what do you believe Congress should compromise on immigration laws?
I said before, a couple things. You've got to make it cheaper. It's so expensive to get an application for permanent residency. I mean, it's especially if you're bringing children over. I mean, it's really, really expensive. So that's one way to tamp it down. Look at the fees, the times, and the efficiency. There's an application that I did personally last year for somebody. I haven't heard anything from USCIS for about a year. it takes an exorbitant amount of time for these things to be processed. And I think that we've got to look at a couple of things. There's two concepts. You got to protect. You want to bring the good people in, and you want to keep people that are not in that category out. And that's the balancing that you have to do. And again, the adversarialism has to go. People have to understand that they have to work together to do something. That we know what the problems are. There's gangs and things that are coming in because of lax border security. They're bringing drugs in, humans trafficking, and all that stuff going on. But then there's also people that are really fleeing oppression, really, really horrifying situations that want to come here and will be wonderful model Americans if they come here. So you got to look at the total picture and then work on it that way and take the nastiness out. If we can have a rational conversation about it, if you have elected leaders in there that really understand that there's a lot of things that have to be done rather than only say one thing because that's what the lobbyists want and that's what the party bosses and everyone funding their campaign wants. If you take that all back and really take a step and look at it, that's when something will get done. And I'll push to make sure that gets done. I'm a good mediator. One of the things I do in my practice as well, the most satisfying moments that I've had is not necessarily representing my own clients, but serving as a neutral mediator where I come into the court as a friend of the court. I sit people down that I've never met before, ever. I've never heard from them, don't know who they are, and I learn about their dispute for the first time. And as a neutral third party that has no interest really in the outcome either way, I sit down with them and I help them work it out. I've helped people resolve everything from two different pizza places in the same shopping center fighting over who has the right to be there versus people looking to return engagement rings and stuff like that from engagements that didn't work out. And I've been able to help people, as a mediator, just not even being paid, just somebody that's there to help solve that type of problem. And there's not enough of that approach in Washington right now. It's all, adversarialism, duke it out, who can have the most outrageous soundbite, who can make the 24-hour news cycle. And, that's really where things have to change. Yeah. That's a very good question. Some have proposed a total outright, let's forgive it all. And that can't work because unless other things are done, that's just way too much money involved. But here's what they can do. The U.S. bankruptcy code right now makes it extremely, extremely difficult to discharge student loans. And the standard is extreme undue hardship, which is something that no one can seem to figure out what it means. And what I want to do is clarify that to create a definitive, quantitative definition of how to get relief in bankruptcy court from student loan obligations, and that's one thing I'm looking to do. Another thing I want to do is there should be, if you perform a service, right, you should be able to get, especially in an underserved area, you should be able to get credit towards your student loan debt, particularly the federal obligation. Because I'll tell you, there's a lot of people that go to law school right now, and they come out, and they pass the bar, and they can't get a job. They're working in Starbucks, they're working in a restaurant. There's so many that are working in fields that have nothing to do with the legal profession. What I want to be able to do is to create something so that, obviously people have to work to be able to get money. Whether they have to work another job in addition, but I want them to be able to put their skills and their training and their qualifications to use that perhaps help people at, with legal work and maybe to gain experience too in an underserved area and get credit towards their student loan obligations right now. There's very few, doctors, I believe, have a few options for that regard, but other professionals, whether it's a lawyer or even somebody that just has a bachelor's degree or maybe engineering or something like that, there isn't too many of those programs out there. And I think that, if you anyone look and see what's going on in Puerto Rico right now, they still need tremendous amounts of help. Why not send people down there? How about Houston, Texas, after the disasters there? We all know if you were here through Sandy, you know what it is. This is way worse than that, right? Have people be able to use the skills that they've learned and that they've earned the degrees that they earned to go down to an underserved area or anywhere that needs the help, pair up the help with people that can give it, and then give a credit towards student loan relief there. There's all kinds of things that can be done. Another thing, too, if you want to buy a house, you should be able to roll a portion of your student loan obligation into your mortgage so that you're paying down both at the same time. And that can benefit mortgage lenders, too, because it will get more deals done for them. There's so many things that you can do if you open it up and really take a step back and say, okay, how can we fix this without doing something that can cause an economic problem? Some ways to get positive things to happen that, it helps you, but it also helps others too at the same time. So that's all the types of things that I'm going to be doing. Yeah.
So the topic of running wrongs, what are your thoughts on the Black Lives Matter movement? And do you have any ideas on how to better relationship between African Americans and police force?
Absolutely. And I know there's a lot of injustice in the country. And I haven't lived, and I live here. I haven't lived in a lot of the places in the country where a lot of the problems are happening where I've been there. So the people that are there are the ones that have the best knowledge of what's really going on. And I think that the key is to have the community, the adversarialism. The adversarial nature, I have to be right. No, I have to be right. No, this is the only right way. No, this is the only right way. We as Americans have to walk away from that. And then look at the big picture and say, yes, there needs to be a dialogue between people in the Black community and law enforcement and other types of groups that have issues of that nature. If it becomes hyper-sensationalized by the media, that takes away from the actual building process of sitting down at a table. The way to solve things is to sit down at a table, whether it's behind closed doors or not, and air grievances. Say, hey, this is what we're doing that we don't like, and have a dialogue, and not have it become a shouting match, and not have it become, a thing like that. And dialogue where it can hopefully become progress.
Can you define hypersensitized or connotations?
Look at it. It's hard to explain, but a lot of the news that comes out, is getting people to it comes from organizations that have one or other political bias, and there's not just one or two, there's many. And I think there needs to be people need to be able to filter it. They lose sight of what really has to be done, which is, hey, if there's police officers that are treating people poorly, if there's something like that going on, then that needs police agencies are local mostly. They're at the town level. So if you can have town meetings, town forums, Franklin Township, where I come from, does coffee with a cop, where you can go and meet some members of the Franklin Township Police Department at some local delis in town, and you can meet them on a personal level and get to know them. And there's things like that you can do, and then there's also just meetings where you can have where you can have a real civil discussion on what's going on and how to better achieve justice in places that need it so bad. So when the media, and puts out a message that causes people to antagonize each other and to form meditated or manufactured opinions about something without understanding what it means. Like the players kneeling during the national anthem, there's a lot of talk about that. So many people forget why they're doing it. And I think whether you agree or disagree with what they're doing, the most important thing for anybody to understand is why. Why did it start? It started because people felt that they were in a position where they're known, that they can raise awareness for some problems that are happening that have to be solved. And instead, it's become into this debate about patriotism versus non-patriotism. No. Remember the original meaning. If people understand the original reason why something's happening, understand it, look at it from their point of view, that's how you can really have a positive thing that comes out of it. When it's just, these people are un-American, whatever it is, how dare they? When people say stuff like that, you lose focus on how you can fix them. And that's what I think the key is. You need leaders that are elected that really understand that. And I think that's one of the things that I'm certainly going to do. Yeah.
What are something that separates you from your opponent?
What's that?
What is something that separates you from your opponent?
Well, look at her record. She has voted against a lot of things that you would scratch your head and wonder why. Just because of political adversarialism, because her sort of, her driving principle is, I need to resist everything that the president and the Republicans do, no matter what it is. She's voted against additional funding for school safety, which was part of the omnibus spending bill. It was called the Stop School Violence Act. She's voted against funding for women's health care, which was part of the omnibus spending bill. And just because she has to feel she has to take an extreme political position. I don't want to take any extreme positions. I recognize that the role of Congressman from the New Jersey's 12th Congressional District is to be a representative, the representative of every single person that lives in the district, no matter who they are, where they came from, what their views are. You need to know you have a friend, no matter what. And that's the difference between her and me, where she seems to be courting and support and spending time with people that are only on one political side of the spectrum. And I want to be accessible and be able to have a conversation with and be there for people no matter who they are. And I'll look at you like a friend and treat you like family. And that's what we've lost in politics right now. And that's what I'm going to do. Okay.
What's your opinion on President Trump's Supreme Court happening?
Brett Kavanaugh? Is that you're referring to? Or yeah, Brett Kavanaugh, right? Not Gorsuch is already confirmed, but look, by all accounts, this is somebody that's been respected by both sides of the aisle. We saw that he was, if you watched him and you watched the press conference with him and his family, you can see that he's real. You can see that he's not a politician. You can see that he's been a good jurist and a good judge, throughout his career. And the role of a judge is to follow the Constitution as it is written. The role of the judiciary is to make sure that laws comport with the Constitution and to have justice done. If people disagree with the way things are, the way to change it is to amend the Constitution or pass a new law and not legislate from the bench. And I think Justice Kavanaugh, when he gets confirmed, will handle things in the right way. He's the judge. He's there to make a decision, to find the law. I support the nomination. I haven't seen anything from him, for anyone, for me to indicate that there's a problem, or that he will not do the job that's that will hopefully be assigned to him. Again, it's if the policy-making body for the country is Congress. It's not the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is there as a barrier against overreach, that's the way the country is set up is the separation of powers that people are forgetting. So, I like them. I think they did a really good job. Yeah. As a champion of individual liberty, it is not my place to tell anybody what to do. My personal views as a conservative Jew, I would hope that people would choose life, but again, I don't impose my religion on anybody. I don't impose my beliefs on anybody, and I'm going to be there to protect individual liberty because that's the real role. The real role of being elected to office is not to be a reward speaker. It's there to help people and to protect their rights and expand their rights. So my personal views, with myself and my family, will have nothing to do with what my policy will be, which is on this issue, which is you have a right to do the government should. You can't believe in limited government and then tell people, no, but you can't do this and you can't do that. So that's my view. It's a very libertarian. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on massive deportation criminals? In 1970s, the U.S. deported more than 50,000 prisoners in a country with a population of less than 8 million. The lack of law enforcement and a corrupt government that gave rise to criminality. You said we have to keep that bad immigrants out. Don't you think that massive deportations will worsen the situation of the Central American countries and increase the migration to the U.S.?
Yes, I don't believe in mass deportation. I do not believe in mass deportation at all. I think we have to take a more practical tact towards solving that problem, like looking at people that are integrated in the communities that want to be here. And, it's changing a status on a piece of paper. And my view is if you're here and you are willing to say, okay, I'm going to pay taxes here, I'm going to live up to my responsibilities as a U.S. citizen, there should be a process for them to go through instead of a limbo that involves leaving and coming back. How are you going to leave and come back? How are you going to do that? You know how much it costs for you a plane ticket? How are you going to do that? And then there needs to be a more practical way. And I think the way to find it is for everybody to kind of move towards the middle on the issue and say, hey, stop beating each other up. There's people whose lives depend on us. So we're right. Yeah.
What is your stance on Trump trying to roll back some of the lobby programs and the Affordable Care Act? Okay,
health insurance is a mess. How do you what health insurance for your family right now, or how do you get it? Family, okay. Then you don't, whether you know how much they pay or not, it's too much. That's the answer. So the Affordable Care Act had a good premise behind it. It helped people have a centralized method where everybody could get health insurance from. And it had some pretty nice things in terms of subsidies and things like that, which helped people. I get it. But it didn't work out that way. So I want to take the best parts of the Affordable Care Act. It's something new will eventually have to happen because it's the cost of insurance is going up. But you're seeing new things come in, like one particular thing that's going to be out now is this short-term health insurance where you get it for a certain number of years. It doesn't really automatically you have to renew it yourself. There are some limitations to what it gives you, but it's a lot cheaper. And you know, I'm really open to any type of practical solution on healthcare because you know it's such a mess right now. It's so expensive. It puts families in such a position of financial hardship that something really has to be done. And you know, you can take the good parts of the ACA and you can preserve them into something that can work even better. And I think generally when there's competition and when you open up the ability to purchase healthcare across state lines and you don't have laws that act as sort of a protectionist racket against politically connected companies that have a little too close relationships with legislators, once you can eliminate the politics out of it, I think we can come to something that could really work. But again, I'm really open to any type of resolution on healthcare. Anything that I can do to make it easier and less expensive for people to live, I'm going to do it. That's why I know how hard it is raising a family of 3. You're being the sole provider of my family. I know what it is to be able to have enough money, and I know what it is to have to choose between being able to pay certain things at certain times and I know. And that's what I'm going to be working for. Yeah.
Exactly which part of the Affordable Care Act do you think you should speak?
I like the marketplace. I like the idea of having a website that you can go to that will direct you to have different options that you have. I like that. I like that I like some of the subsidies that are in there that will help people, but maybe the exact dollar amounts need to be looked at. I like that. I like how it expands access to care. But what I don't like is when you regulate too much. And you make certain people the only game in town. Like New Jersey lost a good number of health insurance companies since the passage of the Affordable Care Act. And you have to, if there's competition, if there's different companies that can compete to raise their services and raise their and lower their costs, I think that'll help everybody. There's two different aspects of it, of how to improve on what's there and how to improve. I have to take up more questions than I have.
So following on the question being asked about Dr. Kipnis, how can having housing solve larger issues always been here?
It won't. It's a start. To solve the larger issues, it's going to take a larger focus. It's going to take looking at community policing standards. It's going to take looking at having certain elected members of the public on a special board that can make decisions concerning policing. If it has to come to that.
So what are your recommendations for fixing this issue? Beginning to fix this problem. So
let's take a look at you got to take a look at where it's the worst. And then from there, you introduce something there, and then you can move outward and say, hey, this really worked in a place where there was a really, really bad problem. Let's see if we can really move it elsewhere. I'm open to really anything.
So what's your plan? If you have a plan?
One thing is decriminalizing marijuana. I think that is, and putting it on removing it from the federal seat justice, because a lot of people get arrested in those communities based on that, and they shouldn't.
Oh,
I mean, there's a bill that actually a really conservative member of the New Jersey's Assembly, Michael Patrick, put up that would have expungements of convictions and provide for that. That's a big problem right now. It's something that's got to be fixed. So, yeah, I'm certainly open to doing something like that. But again, marijuana is on, the convictions are at the state level. So, creating law at the federal level, we encourage states to do that, to get people. The prison reform. What's that? New Jersey will eventually come up with something, and whether it's the model for the rest of the country, I don't know. But I'm certainly, I understand that there's a negative impact of having marijuana laws in place as they are right now, especially in those communities. So.
Let's make sure people can have us back in the question and get one in.
No, I have to order something with that.
So we'll do two more, yeah. And then, one or two.
I was going to ask on the topic of abortion, you said you were pro-choice.
Here's the way to describe it. For purposes of policy, yes. I don't want to interfere in anybody's. My personal views on it should not affect the way that I legislate on an issue of import. Okay, so as far as anybody's concerned, I want to keep the government out of those decisions.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, since Trump pledged that he was going to revoke Roe versus Wade, are you planning to fight against that?
I don't think Roe versus Wade is going to get overturned. I think it's the law of the land, and it's going to stay the law of the land, and I hope that maybe some states can maybe more rights can come to keep it. Freedom is always paramount for me. I don't think it's going to be overturned. No matter who gets on the Supreme Court, I just can't see it happening. So hopefully that'll be the case. Yeah.
Oh, no, you first.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, it's 2018 and science is like evolving rapidly.
Sure.
There's been a new practice that's caused a lot of controversy.
What's that?
Stem cell research.
Yes.
And where they work with different
Yes.
many people view this as unethical, seeing as endures or not living. I want to know your thoughts. Do you think it's unethical, and do you think it should be practiced further? Because it has a lot of medical.
On that thing, pretty much, it's short of human cloning, I think there needs to be a conversation about any type of way to advance science. Embryos are obtained under different circumstances. There could be ethics, there needs to be ethics in place in terms of how they're obtained and whether there's consent, and what the source of it is. But I'm going to be for scientific advancement because that's what makes the country really great. That's what, if you look at this, you have a computer. You have a supercomputer in your pocket right now, which is amazing. When I was a kid, growing up in high school, I never thought that I'd have that. So if you say no to things based on some archaic principle, you can avert the next great innovation from happening. So there needs to be ethics involved in everything, yes. But scientific advancement is the key to society.
Laura.
Yeah.
What other events did you have on the agenda today?
It's just another meeting with the press over in Tiger Park. Yeah, that's basically it. Check out my website and my Facebook page, Mr. Congress. I'll put events in there. If you guys go to any of the county fairs, I'm going to be in Middlesex. I'll put up the days that I'll be there. I'm going to be at the Middlesex County Fair. I'm going to be at National Night Out in West Windsor, and I'm going to be in the Somerset County 4-H Fair. Various different days next week. So come on and come and say hello. Or you can simply message.